Good morning and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Prashant Mavani. I hope you all are doing good, my dear friends. Today is 20th February 2020. Day is Thursday. We have a very interesting article on our table. The missing piece in India's defense jigsaw puzzle. This article is about introspection, why India needs to do a cost-benefit analysis. Is China really a big threat for our country? We are going to talk about it in detail, but before that, I would like to introduce all of you to our pen drive and tablet courses, which are available for various different exams. Dear friends, our pen drive and tablet courses are designed by best faculties of our country. With the help of our pen drive and tablet courses, there are thousands of students out there. They have cracked various different competitive exams. You can do the same. You can purchase them from StudyIQ.com. To download the PDF of today's lecture, you have two sources. Lecture is been shared with you guys. Please make sure that you too share this lecture with other students. If you have learned something from today's discussion, if you like this series, then hit the like button and please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. The missing piece in India's defense jigsaw puzzle. Do you know that India is at fourth position when it comes to military expenditure? Number one is USA. Now, it's quite logical because USA has more than 150 defense or military bases in different parts of the world. So naturally, USA's defense expenditure is going to be very high. Second one is China. Now, let me tell you one more important thing about China. There are more than somewhere around 13-14 countries with which China is sharing its border. China is a big country as well with deep pockets. China is a rising power. So China again requires huge amount of money for defense. Saudi Arabia, geopolitical situation, West Asia, Yemen, and you have this Iran on the other side, like crossing Persian Gulf. You find a big threat for Saudi Arabia, that is Iran. Then you have other countries, and you want to dominate this part of West Asia. You want to be a number one leader here, etc. So you are also spending a huge amount of money, and your source of income is oil, a natural resource, right? So you have to do very little. I'm not saying that everything is free when it comes to oil. You have to look after it, and there are challenges, of course, but it's not that difficult like our country, India. We have to do so many things. We are importing oil and we have so many other problems as well. But then as well, we are at fourth place. So the question is, do we really need to spend this much amount of money after military expenditure? Cost-benefit analysis. We need to ensure that the amounts expended are in tune with our strategic requirements. What are our strategic requirements? What are big threats around India? We are going to talk about it as well. But before that, let's quickly see defense deals in the pipeline. Rafale fighter jet. We are going to get delivery of first lot in upcoming future, which is not far, and you know it very well. It's a French product, and there are some other things associated with it, as you can see on your screen. You can download the PDF and then you can go through this infographic. Then you have this Kamov Ka-226. This is a light utility helicopter. We are going to get it from Russia. In fact, we are going to buy some 200 of them. Then we have this big truck that you can see, and this big barrels in this truck. They are basically this defense part of this defense system. It is known as S-400 Triumph Air Defense System. This mega deal was signed between India and Russia and back in October 2018, and it's a $5.4 billion mega deal. Now, Mr. Trump is going to visit our country in next 4 days. So he'll be here on 24th. He's going to stay here till 25th. So 2 days he's going to be here in our country. And the defense deals are in news. P-81 maritime reconnaissance aircraft. Then you have Apache attack helicopters. Then Cabinet Committee on Security has also cleared this purchase of MH-60. This is Romeo multi-mission helicopters. We are going to get it for Navy. We are going to get some 6 Apache helicopters for this Army as well. And this NASAMS-2, that is National Advanced surface-to-air missile system is also in news. It's a system that protects our capital. So USA wants to sell this item as well to us. So these are the things that will be or may be signed. We don't know yet, but these are the things. Like, of course, this one is, as I told you, like Cabinet Committee on Security has already given its green signal for this Romeo helicopters. And this defense deals, right? Keep them in mind as well, because we have one more article on USA. So I'm going to talk some things about USA's this trade deal, what USA's strategy is when it comes to India, particularly this Mr. Trump's visit. But anyway, let's get back to this one. So in last 13 years, since 2007, we have purchased $17 billion worth items from USA alone. So we are spending huge amount of money now. If I ask you, then it's a very logical as well as it's a matter of common sense that India has to be alert all the time, because on western side we have Pakistan, northwest to be precise, and on northeast as well as on northern portion we have China. Like we had 4 wars with Pakistan and one with China, and both these countries are nuclear powers. So we have to be alert all the time, no doubt. With Pakistan, we have to understand this thing, that Pakistan is of course a nuclear power, but God forbid, but in case if there is a war with Pakistan, then we can easily hit Pakistan, we can easily defeat Pakistan. So this Pakistan is not that big threat for us. When I'm saying this, I don't mean to say that we we should not guard our borders, but the biggest threat from Pakistan is not a full-fledged war. It's this proxy war, this fidains and this infiltrators that are coming, or the sleeper cells that are there in our country. So Pakistan is all about, or the biggest threat is this shadow or proxy war. When it comes to China, now China is of course not Pakistan. China, as you know, is a very powerful country, nuclear country, part of United Nations Security Council. Global rising is also taking place. It's directly challenging the world heavyweight champion at present, USA. So Pakistan, this China is definitely a contender, and it's getting heavier and heavier, bigger and bigger, more muscular. But we have to realize this thing as well, that is China really a threat for our country? Now, if we see Pakistan and China's relationship, then they call each other like their relationship is like all-weather friendship, And Pakistan has been helped by China many a times at various different global platforms, may it be FATF or United Nations Security Council. So this friendship is there. We know it, and we know about this thing. But this piece that is missing from this jigsaw puzzle is this thing, that we have not analyzed China that well. Like under Xi Jinping's rule, China is definitely an assertive one, and the leaders before Mr. Xi Jinping, they used to say that we should keep our head down and first we should focus on our development. Once we have money, once we have that economical power, then we can talk about, then we can look in someone's eyes, and or means it's not a nature of China to be in that aggressive confrontation, but because it is growing, because it is expanding, getting more muscular, we find that China, as I told you, is sharing borders with nearly 13-14 countries, and other territories with other countries. So here China claims about this 9-dash line. I'm sure you'd be aware about this thing. This is basically, these waters are of South China Sea. So here it is in direct confrontation with all these countries. So here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. So these are 9-dash lines. This whole South China Sea water is claimed by China. China is a bit aggressive here, of course, but when it comes to this border that we are sharing with China, it is not that aggressive. We see a little bit ups and downs, but it's not that aggressive. If you judge China, what it's doing in different parts, then we see that it's not that aggressive. Now, this India's strategic thinking regarding China and this aggressive behavior of China is projected or colored by USA and the Western world. If we go through BRI, of course, we have our own problems with BRI. The main one is CPEC, that is passing from Pakistan occupied Kashmir, which is part of our country. So we are not happy about this thing, of course, but BRI is more about shrinking the physical and psychological distance between Europe and East Asia. Earlier on, I have also told you this thing that it's all about home delivery, that China producing items and then directly delivering it at your doorstep, or your country's doorstep, via this BRI. So this is also a big plan of China, but it's not about military might. It's more about building that financial and economical relationship. And of course, when you have invested in something, if you have a very big beautiful house, right, if you have a big garden and expensive things inside your house, then naturally you are going to appoint someone as a security guard, or security guard, as well as you may appoint some or you may adopt or have some pets like big dogs, guard dogs, to protect. So when you have this much investment, then naturally you are going to invest in your defense as well to protect your investment. Now, rather than a conflict-prone role, China is more intent on its influence peddling role, or influence peddling one. So China is influencing country by its economical might, by its other expertise, and it's not other expertise is not about defense. It's more about technology. It's more about construction, infrastructure, and things like that. So these are the things that we have to calculate, and based on this thing, if we go through this article, then we find that China is not that big threat. In fact, China is heavily investing on artificial intelligence, robotics, biotechnology, and these are the things that we can learn from China. We can collaborate with and cooperate with China, and we can have this state-to-state relations where we can learn so many things from China, because of course we have to accept this thing that China is bit far ahead from us when it comes to delivery, when it comes to speed, when it comes to thinking out of the box and patent filing and so many things. So there are so many the mistakes that China have made. We can learn from them. We can have this late starter advantage. So we should learn from China, and we should collaborate. And there is no point of spending this much amount of money. When I'm saying this, I'm saying it with responsibility. When I'm saying not this much amount of money is not required, and we are spending this much amount because the main reason is we are importing items. This is the main thing why our defense bill is so high. When it comes to missiles, we are one of the best in the world, but when it comes to guns, when it comes to tanks, when it comes to aircrafts, when it comes to other technologies, radars and other things, we have to import everything. So this big amount is not a problem. The main problem is, when I'm saying big amount, the reason why big amount is a sort of symptom. The main disease is we are not that capable in producing items, defense items, and we have to do it. If we don't do it, then means if we are not doing it today, then maybe after 10 years, 15 years, at the end of the day, we have to go through it, or we have to have our own products. So it's better to start building them from today itself. So I hope things are clear to you. We have talked about some things that were not mentioned here, but of course it was for your overall understanding. Then let's talk about secrecy hurts. Now, secrecy, when we talk about secrecy, it's of course about coronavirus. Nowadays, coronavirus is in news, and you can expect a question on it, as I have said earlier on as well. Once and for all, let me tell you that you have to look at coronavirus from various different angles. They can ask you questions based on your on this coronavirus geography, like where it was found, etc., right, or important places nearby Wuhan and other things. They can ask you question based on medical things associated with, or medical terminologies. When I say terminologies, I'm talking about like whether this virus spreads from one person to another. If yes, then how, whether it's a zoonotic disease or not, like originated from animal or other species, and then it came to our, like, human beings in our domain. So this sort of questions, then you need to go through some how it spreads, we have already talked about it, right? Then technical things like here you have this coronavirus. Now, what is a coronavirus? What is difference between coronavirus and normal virus and things like that? Coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2 causes COVID. This novel coronavirus 2019 is caused by coronavirus SARS-CoV-2. Remember, this is a line that you find in today's editorial. So it's a very important piece of information. And the reason why I'm discussing these things is because if you go through Ebola, if you go through past papers, then you'll find questions on Ebola, questions on Zika were based on not only just about those viruses. It was mix whether it spreads, which part you find it, and things like that. And I'm talking about various different exams, including UPSC. So it's a very important topic, coronavirus, right? So it is important to note that China has done a lot after the initial delay in reporting the disease. The biggest problem was secrecy. China maintained for a very long period of time it was kept under secrecy, and secrecy is a killer. Of course, it has killed so many people, some 2,000 plus people. I'm not saying all of them died because of secrecy, but China could have avoided. China spent huge amount of money and resources for building these hospitals in no time. But just imagine if China could have worked, or if it would have been behaved transparently and acted on time, then very little effort and resources would have required. China did not apply the lessons it learned from SARS outbreak despite strident global criticism. And China can learn from Kerala as well. Kerala handled this Nipah virus outbreak in 2018-19 very well. It was transparent, and timely action helped the state contain the outbreaks within days, with few cases deaths in 2018. People were kept in dark in China, so China should learn from these two incidents, and it can learn from Kerala. Now let's talk about Afghanistan. Very easy to understand article we have, but it is important for India as well. And I am going to ask you some questions regarding geography. In fact, let me ask you questions right now. So we have talked about India, Pakistan and China. So question number 1 is, as you know, India is sharing its land boundary with various different countries. So can you tell me the name of the country with which we have our longest border and the shortest border? So this is question number 1. Question number 2 is, can you give me the names of the countries with which Afghanistan is sharing its land boundary? So these are your 2 questions. So let's talk about AEC, that is Afghanistan Election Commission. It came out with this result, after 5 months. Elections took place back in 28 September 2019. And the result is coming just now, that Ashraf Ghani is the winner of this presidential election. Now, his opponent, Mr. Abdullah, is not at all happy with this result. He said that it is fraudulent, and he's not going to accept this victory of Mr. Ashraf Ghani, of course. And Mr. Abdullah said that he is going to form a parallel government. Now 5 years ago as well, he did the same thing when Mr. Ghani was declared winner during 5 years ago, and during that point of time as well, Mr. Abdullah refused to accept the result. At that point of time, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry brokered a power sharing agreement, like Mr. Ghani will be president and Mr. Abdullah will be the government's chief executive. So again, I think we may see something similar. But the lesson that we need to learn from this thing is that when you have 2 main leaders, when political parties are against each other, when they are so selfish that they are concerned with their victory and loss only, then third parties, like here you have Taliban steadily expanded across the country's hinterland and stepped up attacks on its city centers, because political parties are constantly in a conflict mode against each other. And less than a fourth of registered voters turned up in September. So already your democracy is not that strong. You need to, you should allow it to get more mature. And here what we see is these political parties are fighting with each other, and Taliban is getting stronger and stronger. Now USA is going to have a direct deal with the Taliban agreement with Taliban, because USA is also tired of Afghanistan. It's been here for like nearly 2 decades now. So many soldiers have sacrificed their lives, huge amount of resources, other things are invested here, and now people of America are tired as well. They want their troops to step out from Afghanistan. Mr. Trump has said that he's going to pull all of them out as soon as possible. So if the deal goes okay with the Taliban, then USA will gradually step out of Afghanistan. Now imagine like USA or even with an American troops presence, in Afghanistan, this Taliban is this heavy. It's not getting weak. In fact it's getting stronger and stronger. So once USA will be out, directly Taliban can take over Afghanistan, and these political parties, they will have nothing then. So this is the thing. And how will the government defend the constitution or any of the post-Taliban achievements if it is going to negotiate with a resurgent Taliban from a position of such weakness? Government is in a very weak position, and you cannot have a proper deal if you are weak. So the most important message here is that everyone is basically looking after their own self-interest. Like USA wants to get out of this trouble, so it wants to save money, it wants to save its energy. Ashraf Ghani wants to hold this powerful position. Taliban wants to take control over this country. Pakistan wants to keep this remote control in its hand, so that it can increase and decrease the amount of trouble whenever it wants, and it wants to do it because it will make Pakistan more attractive when it comes to dealing with Afghanistan. You have this route to Afghanistan going through Pakistan, so it wants to control Taliban. It wants to get all this money and attention and everything that it can get, because if troubles are going on in Afghanistan, that means things or money will come to Pakistan, right? So the bottom line is, no one is really serious about the people as well as the future of Afghanistan. Everyone everyone wants to get, or all these stakeholders, they want the biggest, I would say, piece of cake. Moving on to next item, we have two important. One is, of course, turning ships into museum. This one is very important one. It's about tourism. But this one is about visit of Mr. Trump to India. Now, we were talking about this topic, India and USA, yesterday. Remember GSP, and if you are new to this discussion today, if this is your first day, then I highly recommend you guys to go through yesterday's discussion. Very important things that we have covered yesterday about World Trade Organization. We talked about some privileges or some special things that are provided under WTO rules and regulations and things like that, right? So Mr. Trump's visit. Now, the news that we find today is Mr. Trump is not going to go ahead with a trade deal, right? What he has said, that we are going to have a big trade deal with India, but that is going to be in future. We are now considered a developed country by USA, so we are not going to be under GSP. India has been asking for this GSP benefits. So USA's, this means Mr. Trump's, this tour is going to be more for his political image. Campaigns are going on, so he's going to come here, and it is also said that he's going to be, he's going to have a big rally, like 7 million or 70 lakh people will attend this rally. So it's a big number for Mr. Trump. So India is basically, it's giving this opportunity to Mr. Trump that he can come here and he can, have a sort of limelight and spotlight over him. But when it comes to actual deal, we don't see anything big taking place here. In fact, we are going to buy more items for USA. As we have already discussed, this helicopters, we are going to get this Apache helicopters and other helicopters, this Romeo helicopter, then this defense system for New Delhi. And there are other things that we are going to buy from USA. So it looks more one-sided. isn't it? That's what it looks. So that's what has been discussed in this article. Now let's talk about this turning ships into museum. Very interesting article. Turning ships into museums is a very out of the box sort of article, because recently in Union Budget, our Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharamanji talked about tourism and cultural destination. And the government of India has decided that this Lothal, you have a place called Lothal in Gujarat. It's a historical place. So India is going to set up a maritime museum here. Now, remember Statue of Unity when it was being built at that point of time? There were so many people, they were talking negative about it. But if you go through the figures today, you find that so many people are visiting it on regular basis. And to be honest, those of my friends and relatives who have been there, they have said good things about it, that you must visit. So, and this is a big thing, the Statue of Unity, or all these places like museums as well, right? They are they generate jobs. Museums are places that promote tourism, create jobs. They contribute to government's revenue, as well as they help in the development of local community. When it comes to augmenting country's maritime tourism, India's record has been very weak. We have, Tamil Nadu government decided that it is going to go ahead with this submarine INS Vagli, and it's going to turn into a museum, but this idea was dropped back in July 2019. If we go through USA, then we find that in USA's GDP, $50 billion comes from museums. 7,26,200 people are working in this museum sector or industry. $12 billion per year USA earns in tax revenue. England, 2.64 billion pounds income because of museums, 1.45 billion pounds output, and 38,165 people are working in museums. Excellent museums often turn out to be a fine tourist attraction that draws in visitors, both domestic as well as foreign. Historical values, country's heritage for future generations, offering knowledge, history and culture. Apart from that, when you have this military and maritime museums, it can be used to honor our military heroes. It can generate this awareness about the hardships faced by our defense personnel, and it can inspire younger generation to join our armed forces. There are 60 such submarine turned museums in USA, 11 in UK, 10 in Russia and Germany, and 5 in France. In our country, we have only one, Vishakhapatnam, where you have this INS Kursura. That is a submarine turned museum, and it's not just about just a plain raw submarine. It's not going to attract. You have to have some added packages. You can have theaters. You can have some virtual reality thing and other things. So you need to create this whole package, make it very beautiful and presentable. Then you will attract people. But for that, you need private sector on board. Kabaddi, football, right? They were not that famous. But private participation has turned the situation of this to sports, and same thing can happen with our submarines and this sort of museums as well. So we need private participation. So for that, we have to create those sort of policies as well. Now let's go through some news items very quickly. Trade agreement with USA only delayed, not stuck, has been said by a government. As I told you already, that government, this one is more about Mr. Trump coming here and attending this road show. So we are not going to get a proper actual deal. Mr. Trump has said that he's going to have a big deal, but later on. So we don't know about later on. No one was killed by police bullets in NCERT protest, has been clarified by Yogi Adityanath in assembly. He said that rioters have in fact killed rioters. Here to find a solution, mediators have said this thing. Supreme Court appointed interlocutors, Sanjay Hegde and Sadhana Ramachandra. They visited this Shaheen Bagh and they had a chat with women and dadis over there, and they are going to visit them again as well. Murlidhar among 3 High Court judges to be transferred. Now this is about Collegium. The most important thing you should know about is that when it comes to High Court judges appointment as well as transfers and elevation, it's this Collegium, Supreme Court Collegium, that decides. Then the Supreme Court pulls up a CBI in Astana probe. Swachh Bharat mission gets green signal from Union Cabinet. 52,497 crore allotted for next 4 years. Centre to form new law panel. 22nd Law Commission. Law Commission's main job is to advise government on complex legal issues. Then it will have one chairperson, full-time chairperson, and 4 full-time members. 3 years will be the tenure of this law commission. Law commission, yes, 3 years tenure. Law and legislative secretaries in law ministry will be ex officio members of the commission, and a retired Supreme Court judge or a chief justice of High Court will lead or head the commission. Then we have this ART bill. ART is Assisted Reproductive Technology Bill 2020, and it is to monitor medical procedures. It's about this reproductive clinics that we have in our country. It is going to formulate standards for laboratories and diagnostic equipments, and of course if anyone is indulging in this sex identification or sex selection practice, then it has severe punishments as well. So that's everything in today's discussion, dear friends. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please do share this video with other students. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell as well. And I'll see you with daily financial news analysis. God bless you all. Jai Hind.